Sevagoth is the latest Warframe to receive a Prime upgrade. While mostly cosmetic, this does come with slightly enhanced shields, armor, and energy max. He also has 6 additional mod polarities across the main, shadow, and claws compared to the normal version. So what can you do with this Prime frame? I'm Nook Engineer, let's solve the practical problem. If you're watching this video soon after release, then you've got the chance to join in the Sevagoth Prime Access giveaway I'm running on stream on August 30th. Join in between 7 to 10 PM UK time, type !ticket in the chat, and be in with a chance to win it. A link to the full terms, as well as the stream, is in the video description. Sevagoth as a frame has not had major overhauls since his release. He's had 2 augments added, which we'll look at shortly, but the core functionality I outlined in his original guide remains true. Functionally then, there are 3 playstyles Sevagoth offers with noticeable overlap. The most basic is to just lean on him as a gloom machine. With gloom being available via the helmet system to other warframes more suited to gunplay with gloom, this is easily the most wasteful use of Sevagoth. Don't forget you need to subsume a normal Sevagoth to the helmet to unlock gloom. The Prime will not work. The other 2 more unique approaches are to focus on his shadow or to focus on his nuke. Sevagoth's shadow can only be used by either going into bleed out and then only as a 5 kills to recovery method, or by sufficiently filling his death well to enable use of his 4th ability. Death well requires 75% charge to activate and will drain while the shadow is in use. Killing enemies affected by Reap, Sow or Death's Harvest while in normal form will recharge the well by 5%, while having enemies alive inside Gloom's area recharges it by 0.1% per second per enemy. Seeing as an enemy would need to be inside Gloom for 50 seconds to be worth as much as just killing it while marked, Gloom isn't a strong contender for charging Shadow form. To that end then, a Shadow approach is best with strength enough to make his abilities effective and energy economy enough to handle casting his 1 and 2 a bunch. Duration isn't as important as you're focused on charging the well, not keeping abilities running long term. Sevagoth's 2 augments, Dark Propagation and Shadow Haze, are great to include as they will assist in keeping enemies marked for powering the death well. Shadow Haze also provides a critical buff for all attacks against a marked target, helping you and your allies. These effects carry over into Shadow form when using Death's Harvest. Basically, if you're playing Sevagoth, you want these augments in there. This build here gives Sevagoth a basic shield tank with emergency restoration through brief respite and temporary immunity from rolling guard. Gloom should handle general defense, starting at 80% slow and climbing to maximum slow after 177 kills. You'll need to recast to change the amount of slow being applied. Charge up Death well with any type of kills on enemies marked with Reap and Sow, then erupt into Shadow form. For the Shadow, I've gone with this setup. The efficient casting means you can throw out all 3 of his abilities pretty much at will, while the health tank supported by Hunter Adrenaline and Quick Thinking makes the Shadow rather resilient. Remember to use his 2, Consume, to recover health when it drops down, as 10 energy there is a lot more real health than the effective health Quick Thinking grants. Arcane Reaper also helps to provide some healing and armor with an effortless activation cost of simply making a melee kill. You're using Sevagoth Shadow, I should hope that a melee kill is achievable. For the claws, both a heavy attack and light attack approach can be made to work. I've gone for a light attack focus with viral support, with heavy attacks provided by Tanokai. This setup is used in Umbral format as I have, well, a couple spare, but you can achieve the same with 2 more V polarities instead. Swing away with your claws, drag in enemies with your 1, heal using 2, curse enemies with 3, and switch to Sevagoth's normal form again, either when the well runs dry or sooner by reuniting via the Shadow's 4. If you are killed in Shadow form, you'll instead resume control of Sevagoth at his casting location. For the nuke approach, we're going to discard the Shadow entirely. When you cast Reap on an enemy affected by Sow, they explode. The target loses 25% of their current health as true damage, and deals that same damage as Blast to nearby enemies. While the 25% portion cannot be improved by strength, it can be improved by both damage vulnerability on the target and by Roar. In testing, the damage vulnerability of Reap is applied to enemies after the initial damage, meaning we cannot benefit from it immediately, but it does still boost all other damage from the nuke setup. Most crucially, it means that the apparent breakpoint of 217% strength, when also using Roar and Precision Intensify, doesn't actually exist. High strength around this level and a cluster of enemies is the true ignition point. So long as at least a handful of enemies are nearby, you can cast Sow, then Reap to set off a powerful chain reaction. The chain is enhanced by the ability extension effects of both augments, sending out more shadows and sowing additional waves of enemies. Of particular note with the shadows, they have a wonky sense of homing in on new enemies to strike. Sometimes they home in, sometimes they fly in a straight line, and sometimes they just spin on the spot uselessly. To avoid issues with wasteful shadows, a lower duration actually helps out. This makes them time out sooner, spending less time with a derpy one and allowing a new shadow to spawn from a new kill. Crucially, this setup is energy intensive. In order to get the nuke, you need high strength, over 200%. In order to get propagation, it relies on range, with more range making for substantially more reliable propagation. With a lower duration, both Gloom and Roar are going to demand more energy over time than with other builds normally using them. To fuel this, I'm using not only Arcane Energize and Flow, but also 2 Amber Archon Shards for energy gain from energy orbs, and another Amber for energy max on spawn. That last shard allows Sevagoth to get the party started, or restarted if you fully die while using him. Thanks to the combo of Rolling Guard, Shield Gate, Companion Protection, and ultimately his passive, this shouldn't be a common concern. Still, it is far better to be prepared than to be ruined. The other 2 Archon Shards are Strength to help hit those high notes with his nuke. If there are a limited number of enemies, or you don't get the chain reaction you were looking for, use a normal weapon to take out the marked enemies. This saves on energy while still forcing a second shadow out of them. Once multiple shadows are in flight, even if the first one doesn't take out an enemy, the second one will certainly do the trick. For this support weapon, I recommend the Tenet Glaxion. Not only is it very easy to handle, it can use the Photon Overcharge augment to provide additional energy orb drops. This synergizes excellently with Sevagoth to keep him running. It's especially helpful if energy runs out completely by accident. The combination of cold procs from a corrosive cold setup plus plentiful orbs helps to keep enemies at bay and quickly reignite the setup. As Sevagoth lives and dies by his ability to cast, all of this energy investment is helpful. If you don't go that far, such as not using the Archon Shards, then the build will still work, but you'll need to be much more careful with your energy management. Do be aware that energy overtime effects will not function while Gloom is draining energy. The biggest 2 weaknesses of the nuke build are Quiet Runes and Acolytes. If there's only a few enemies, there's not enough to get a good nuke going, and you'll need to use your main weapons instead. For Acolytes, they laugh at the idea of being blasted by the 2-1 combo. Again, main weapons will do the trick here. Acolytes are affected by Gloom though, so they're easy enough to handle. I use a primer like the Gaze Kit Gun, coupled with a Condition Overload modded melee to heavy attack them to death. If you're looking for lesser invested builds, I suggest you head back to my original guide to Sevagoth. Otherwise, work your way up to this to get the full benefits. He's not as easy to mod and keep alive as someone like Lavos or Revenant, but the sheer explosive power pays it all off. Once again a reminder that the Sevagoth Prime Axis giveaway is happening on my Twitch channel on August 30th, 2024 from 7 PM UK time. If you're watching this video after then, you can still join future giveaways and events there too. That's all from me for now, so as always, spread gloom, go boom, and fight well, Tenno.